Welcome back to another episode of the Betterment Project podcast. We have a very special guest in the studio with us today. Maddi Wright first caught the public eye on the TV show House Rules, where she and her husband Lloyd embarked on a transformational journey. Their creative flair and unwavering dedication captured the hearts of viewers, garnering a legion of fans. But Maddi's talents extend far beyond home improvement. For over 15 years, she graced the airwaves as a breakfast announcer on radio stations across Brisbane, Townsville and finally Cairns, before deciding to leave the industry, driven by a desire to spend more time with her kids, with family at the core of her being. These days, Maddi's most impactful role lies in her current endeavour, IARA Specialist Support Coordination. As the founder and managing director, she assists people with disabilities in finding the right supports and information within their community. Her localized knowledge ensures impeccable client service, and her team stands side by side with NDIS participants throughout their journey. It is our absolute pleasure to welcome to the show, Maddi Wright.
That was so good.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
He whipped that for me one day. That's lovely.
Can I get a transcript so I can put it on my LinkedIn page? That was fantastic.
$25.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
The hours that went into that.
ChatGPT. And thank you, AI.
Proudly sponsored this whole podcast.
Yes. Turns out it's really easy to do a podcast these days when the internet can just do everything for you.
Yeah.
Maddi, what's going on? How's your week been, mate?
It's been good. As you can see, I'm sitting here with a sure shoulder. Yeah, so I've just come out of 6 weeks in a sling from shoulder surgery, and I can just drive. I just put my arm up a little bit and I drive, but
just like one arm,
not probably be able. Yeah,
Just looking like a gangster.
I'm probably a gangster now. Shades down like that.
Yeah, just West Coast ride.
100%.
Car bouncing.
Esplanades. I call them esplanades, just going past.
Make sure people know.
Your worst enemy.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a while since I've been on radio and behind a mic. So this is
like,
exciting.
welcome back.
I know.
Thank you for joining.
All your radio time, was that live?
It was. Yeah.
So we have the luxury of not being live here.
Like we have the luxury of cutting
Say
things
whatever
out.
I want. I used to say whatever I want anyway, and that's why I'm no longer in radio.
That's why radio careers
That's true. But Ben also has the power now to just edit it however he wants.
So he takes it out.
Any light that he reflects.
That'll be it.
It's
We'll be here for an hour and a half. It'll be like a 4-minute podcast.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I from the research that I did for that intro spiel, a quote unquote for people watching the reels. So Brisbane, Townsville, and settling in Cairns with the radio career. So are you a Brisbane local?
I'm a bit of an everywhere local.
Okay, so take us back.
Yeah, born Bendigo actually in Victoria, and then moved in primary school to Brisbane, then did high school and uni in Brisbane, and then moved to Sydney, and then moved to Townsville, and then moved to Cairns.
Incredible.
Wow.
Yes.
Quite the expert.
Yeah, so I don't know where. So home is definitely Cairns.
Cairns is settling.
It's been the place I've been the most, and it feels like home. I've tried to move back to Melbourne a couple of times because my folks moved back there, and it just felt crappy. It was like, nah. So tried very hard, bought land, started a house there, and then bailed. I was like, no, I can't do it.
It was just like the lifestyle of being up here.
It's honestly weather. It's the weather. It's the people. It just feels like home. You come here and you go down to Rusty's, you know everybody. Like it's just a nice vibe, and I really enjoy the weather. Like I know not a lot of people say that about Cairns, but I enjoy sweating all the time. I feel like it keeps my skin great. And
I like sticking to leather couches, peeling myself off a leather couch. Yeah.
Being embarrassed at a cafe when you sit up and you're like, yep, that was my wet patch. Anyway.
And then the next person just happily sits on that wet patch is like, well, I'll add to it.
Adds to it.
Just add to the wet.
Yeah, so Cairns is home and I love it. So, and I've built a business here, a really successful business here, and I'm just enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
So how did you first come into, I suppose, the radio career? Where did that interest spawn from?
God, that was a long time ago. I started, actually, I was telling you before we click the on button is I started in community radio in Brisbane, and I just trialled it with one of my friends, and we were in the city and there was a little studio, and we thought, we can do this. Had no idea. So all the buttons behind the scenes is called a panel, and we had to learn what the panel was. No one gave us any instructions. And we tried it. It was the shittest show. I think it was actually called Shit Tuesday or something. It was so bad. And I look back and I go, oh my God, no. I think just my mum listened to it, right?
Yeah.
That was fine.
Same
Even
with
she
us.
got bored of it.
And it's pretty much the same now.
That's right. And I think that's where it started. And I just really enjoyed it. And I continued that. I then went into... In Brisbane, they used to call them the Black Thunders, and you would drive around in the cars giving out chips and Coke and stuff. And that was what I did as well to make money and while I was going through uni. And it was a fun job, and I would see all these announcers. So they'd rock up to the shift with 10 minutes to go, and we'd set it all up, and then they would rock up and just do their show and then leave. And then I was the barbecue bitch, we'd call them, and we'd have to pack down everything. And I was like, I want to be that person that doesn't have to do the barbecue stuff, and doesn't have to pack down the marquees. And so that kind of fueled me to go into that. And I studied journalism at uni in my first uni degree, and I actually hated uni. I really, really didn't enjoy it. It just, for me, was a time waster. My first degree was a time waster. I just did another one, and that wasn't so bad. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it was like, back in the day when we went to high school, it was go to high school, go to uni. And don't care what you want to do, but that's what you do. And that's what I was always told. Yep, go to high school, go to uni. So I was like, I'll just pick a degree. So anyway, that's sort of how it went.
Yep, that one.
Yeah, literally. Close your eyes and pick a degree. It doesn't matter. Don't listen to what you want to do. And I think at that age, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Just had to keep working. And so that's how I ended up in radio and stuck at it for 15 years and really, really enjoyed it. But pay was shit.
Really?
Yeah, even top of the game, I reckon I was making $45,000 a year.
Really?
Oh, it's true.
Even as a host,
just as a breakfast radio host.
So
And
to supplement
crazy.
your income, you were going out on the road with the free chippy and Coke
Yeah.
bag. You're just like, well, there's breakfast and dinner. Just like, get it.
doing it for pay. I was doing it for meals.
They were the fringe benefits, weren't they?
It actually worked.
That's so sad.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I actually quit radio when I had my second child, and he was newborn, and my husband was a shift worker, and to go to radio at 3:30 in the morning, when my husband was doing night shift, I would have to get in a babysitter to look after both my children who were under 2 years old.
At 3 a.m. as well.
And I just couldn't do it. I got to that point where I was like, I can't leave a screaming baby with a stranger, essentially, to then go to work, get paid shit, even though I loved it. So I had to make some decisions. And I was like, well, yes, it's a passion of mine, but can I do something else that I might be passionate about that might make my family more money and I get to see my family more? So that's sort of then where I headed into a different journey.
Yeah,
So,
that was the leap.
Yeah.
Where did it sort of transition after that then? So
Yeah, and then I've always said stay in a job. If you've got an idea, like a business idea, always make sure you're staying in a job, and because you need income, right?
Yeah.
Basics of life, pay your mortgage. Pay your mortgage.
This is not financial advice.
No, this is not.
Isn't it though?
you're like, that's what Ben told me.
No, I
And
don't
apparently pay your taxes. Let's not get into that discussion.
Neither here nor there.
No, that's your accountant's problem, not mine.
Yeah, so what was I doing? I was staying in radio, but because I was on the breakfast show, I'd knock off at about 11 o'clock, 11:30. And then I started another business. And at that point, it was called Social Swag. And that business was a marketing business supporting NDIS companies.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell into that. I was really good at marketing, and I fell into that because a family friend asked me if I could help them market their NDIS business. That's literally how it came about.
I wonder how it started.
Yeah. And that business was called the Support Coordination Academy. And they were a sort of a nation-based academy that taught people how to be support coordinators, which is the business I run today. So support coordination in a nutshell, for anyone that doesn't know, is where you connect people with support. So when you've got a disability, you get an NDIS plan and funding, and you often don't know what to do with it. Like someone just gives you this funding and you're sitting there going, what do I do with this? And so our job is literally to coordinate those supports within that plan.
Yeah.
And so that was my first client. I learned a lot about NDIS, a lot about support coordination, and but learnt a lot about it on paper.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I really like this. And I did that for years while I was still doing radio. And then COVID hit and I had to make a decision. What am I going to do? Do I really want to pursue this? And if I do, I need to make that decision to do it properly. So I quit the radio, and then I just started my own business, and I literally started a Facebook page and went and got my first client through Facebook. I knew everything on paper, but I'd never done it in practice, and I was shitting myself. Went to my first client, literally in my head going, you don't know what you're doing. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm just dealing with a person and I'm having a conversation, and that's literally what it was. And then I just moved on from there, and I've now grown 4 years in the business, and it's been crazy.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely exhausted, but it was the best move I could have done. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And you've always been someone that I've seen since I've known you just as a client, but you've always been so like innovative and forward thinking in your approach. You're always, you're not shying away from any struggles or anything like that. You're always just pushing through. So like Steve Jobs said, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. So how do you stay ahead of the curve and innovate in this ever-evolving industry of the NDIS? Like, we've had many conversations about it. But how do we get inside your mindset about that?
I love innovation. I think you need to stay ahead of everything. As frustrating as it is, I think I'm probably 10 years older than everybody in this room, I would say.
Ben's pretty old.
Is he though?
Yeah.
Thanks, Wayne.
Ben, are you 30?
Yes.
30 what?
32.
Okay, well, I'm 37, so I'm nearly 10 years older than most people in this room.
I was gonna, don't feel bad. He's old.
I'm going to age like a fine wine, thank you very much. Thanks to my genetics.
I know, that's right.
Thank you, family.
Where were you?
I don't even know anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
Innovation. Listen, it's been a skill to have to learn. It's this is why I bring up age. I grew up when we literally had dial-up internet, and when I went to uni my first time around was 15 years ago, and we had to go to the library. Like, you actually had to look up books and write things. And now, I just did my master's degree last year, and now you can put it in an AI app and it types out your assignment.
Not that you did that.
No, well, I just figured that out as I finished the degree. I was really disappointed. I totally would have done that. It was great innovation technique. But it's funny because I've had to really grapple with, do I adopt new things? Like AI for me, I really struggle with, because I'm like, well, are my staff going to be without jobs because report writing becomes an AI thing? And so you have to adopt it, and you have to let egos go by the wayside and just get on board. And that's just what you have to do. So innovation has been one that's been mentally hard to do, because you've just got to keep going and not be stoic and, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do that. My ancestors wouldn't do that. It has been one of those things that I've had to learn to do, and it now comes naturally. But it was a real mindset change to do it. And so, I mean, in terms of keeping up to date in my own industry, the only way you can do that is if you love what you do. You cannot force yourself to be innovative, and you can't force yourself to keep up to trend on anything if you actually don't enjoy it.
You have to be passionate.
You have to, and you really need to hone in on what is that passion. What I figured out, I really thought my passion was the NDIS, and it was supporting people with disability, and it was. As I've grown a company and I have the most amazing staff, what I've found is my passion has shifted to supporting these people, and they're like my clients, right? Like those people and my staff who I've nurtured since they came into the business when I see them getting outcomes, that makes me push myself. Like
Yeah.
I go, oh, that was sick. Oh, I want to learn from that. And I learn from them. I don't learn from outsiders all the time. It is learning from the people beside you.
Yeah.
So innovation can come from many different spaces. And I think the best way to innovate is to share experiences and talk about it. Like I often say to my guys, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a problem and a solution, and we'll hash it out.
Yeah.
I often say we'll spitball, and then after we talk about it, we've gone on a number of different journeys through the conversation, and we're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go down that pathway and try it,
Yeah.
because who knows?
Then you
if
get the
it'll work.
feedback. Yeah.
That's right. And if it doesn't work, pivot, try something else. Yeah. So, but have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
And you'll only do that if you genuinely love what you're doing. Like,
Incredible.
So don't bother.
So you were talking earlier on about like your kind of skill and your background in marketing. How essential do you think that is, especially in these like this day and age, to have that and to be able to utilize it to kind of grow your brand?
Yeah. The number one.
Yeah.
The number one skill.
Yeah.
And I genuinely say that one of my passions is, like I said, nurturing talent. And when I see talent, often they're talented in a particular type of field. And I'll give you a tiny example. There's a lady that lives close to me that makes the most amazing cookies and cakes, right?
Yeah.
I don't even eat cookie and cake. I just don't like it. But I'm so fascinated in her skill.
Yeah.
And all I want to do is go and build a business around
Yeah.
her. Because I'm like, oh my God.
This needs to be shared.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I think, and that's the thing, that's the difference between sometimes what makes a great business is it has to have that talent and it has to have that passion and product, but then you then need to market it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just sits at home, right? So I never knew how powerful my marketing skills would become until I started really using them, and I was like, I could probably market anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's the difference.
Really interesting. Like a lot of even our friends have, built their own businesses and things like that. You see they've built this amazing brand, but then they've also got a really strong personal brand and they've built that as well too. And obviously there's a crossover between the two because it's a skill that you can utilize for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about that personal brand, because
Yeah.
like I alluded to in the intro, you've had this whole life and career in the spotlight prior to doing what you do now.
Yeah.
So I take it you've been able to maybe leverage your personal brand, or it's been running concurrently with what you've got now. So where did that personal brand all begin?
A major struggle. That has been a really big struggle. I, as much as I love the sound of my own voice, I really don't like being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
So, and it has been a real struggle. We came off House Rules. So House Rules, if nobody knows, was a Channel 7 show where we travelled around Australia and renovated houses. Yeah. For all the young ones here, that's what it was. And it was 10 years ago. So, but it was the most highly rated reality TV show that Channel 7 ever saw. So, and back then, 10 years ago, reality TV was kind of just kicking off, right? So we were one of the first that made a big hit. And back then, social media, I didn't use it that often. I didn't know. And then we were just getting flooded with lots of things from, copying abuse on social media to, lots of love. And our pages were just skyrocketing. And so it was really hard to understand how to deal with all that. And no one ever teaches you how to do that. So, it was an interesting ride. I did definitely try to leverage that, and I went, okay, well, I've got 100,000 followers on Facebook. Should I do something with that? So I went down. So something I'm not passionate about, but I enjoy is being in the gym, and I really enjoy doing things like that. And I was a qualified personal trainer. So what I did after House Rules is I started, like a mummy page, and I started doing workouts and stuff. And to be honest, I fucking hated all of it. Like I hated filming myself. I hated being in front of the camera doing it.
Because it sort of became a
I
chore
wasn't
by the
passionate.
time.
It did, and it was really about taking time away from my family, because you would film and you'd be like, "Oh, honey, don't come near me. Mummy's filming," and I
do that really cute thing again. I need to re-record it.
Exactly, and I really don't like using my children on social media. So that was really hard to deal with, and I used to think I've got regrets around that, where I didn't really harness social media to the best of what I could have done.
Yeah.
But I don't call it regrets. I actually call it some learnings and because at that time I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and I didn't have this business, and this business also didn't make any sense with social media as well. So yeah, it's been hard. It's been an interesting journey. I don't post a lot. Like, it's very rare. I do a lot of posting on social media. I actually had my Instagram completely stolen.
Wow.
So that was, I think I had 40,000 followers, and that just got stolen. They stole my email address that I had for 10 years. And yeah, that was, and someone said to me, how do you feel? I went, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I cared about is it was my kids' photos on there.
Yeah.
It was like some dirty assholes got my,
kids photos.
So that was probably that was the dark side of it. But being on a national TV show, it was hard to deal with the comments that came through.
Yeah.
I got called dumb blonde all the time. I got stereotypes, whatever. And I learned to deal with it quite easily.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
turn
really?
your
Yeah.
phone upside down and you don't read it.
Don't engage with it.
And honest to God, that is how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
And it never affected me.
That's amazing.
Never. Someone could go on a rant now and I wouldn't give two shits.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hard part of being in the spotlight or a social media influencer or anything like that. Is just you feel like you need to read the comments.
Yeah,
Or go through that
yeah,
and see what
absolutely.
people are saying about you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, like, that's just going to negatively affect you.
100%.
Yeah.
Don't worry, our audience isn't big enough to start getting hate yet. So
But when we did get one guy that hated on one video, we celebrated him.
Yeah, we celebrated.
Hey, someone's gone out there
Yeah,
way to
yeah,
hate.
yeah.
This is a win. This is a
The hate
win.
is probably from our parents.
yeah.
Our four listeners.
Well, it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
quit your day job, fellas. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yes, we got that first take.
Yeah.
Like,
We're going to frame it.
Yeah. There's this amazing quote. I don't know if you guys follow Brene Brown, and she's
Alice at the
quoted
Heart,
well, she's quoted Theodore Roosevelt,
yeah.
and it's called The Man in the Arena.
The Man in
And
the
I
Arena, yeah.
honestly, sometimes I go back to it. Even now, I did a big speech in the hospital recently, and I thought it just went so shit. And I honestly walked away just being so upset at myself. And then I read this quote, and I went, "Stop it! You just stop it!" Like it's about the Man in the Arena quote is around. It's forget what the critics are saying. They're not the one in the arena doing this. Like, you are the one doing this. You're the one that took the risk. You have sweat and blood and tears, and that's what you've done. Yeah. And all the critics can just shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so fair, because even if I'd tapped anyone on those shoulders to just say, would you like to take my place?
Yeah.
No way in the world they would have.
Exactly.
So, I just take some, like, okay, at least I'm giving it a crack.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
Like,
easy to, like, criticize.
Yeah.
100%.
Not
If
to
you're not
actually
doing
get in the
it.
arena.
Yeah.
I suppose on the just topic of failure, there's an excerpt I read from entrepreneur Sarah Blakely, and she said, when my brother and I were growing up, my father would encourage us to fail. We'd sit around the dinner table and he'd ask, what did you guys fail at this week? If we had nothing to tell him, he'd be disappointed. The logic seems counterintuitive, but it worked beautifully. He knew that many people become paralyzed by the fear of failure. They're not constantly afraid of what others will think if they don't do a great job, and as a result, take no risks. So my father wanted us to try everything and feel free to push the envelope. His attitude taught me to define failure as not trying something I want to do instead of not achieving the right outcome. So when have you faced adversity and failure, and how has this experience, I suppose, helped shape the person that you are today?
Yeah. I love failure.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. You can never get better without it. And in business, for example, one of my first businesses, again, I was, I think, 7 months pregnant, and I opened up a fitness business in Cairns, and I lost $80,000 of my family money that we had worked really hard. And why I lost that is because I started a business I wasn't passionate about, but I didn't know that. I started a business that I thought would make a lot of money. So I was like, all right, easy, simple, let's do it. Yeah. And I walked away from that. I went, oh my God, that was the worst thing in the world. But what it taught me is how much it hurts to lose that money. It really taught me that. And I never want to do that again. So when I go through things, when I start new things, although I take risks, it actually put this fire under me to be like, I'll take a risk, and I know how much it hurts to not go through this again. So you will take those risks again, but you won't make the same mistakes. Or you might make the same mistakes, but they'll be different mistakes that you make. So But failure, you know, I've hired people and I've gone, oh, they seem great, and then it didn't work out, and I learned something from it. You know, there's like, you can fail at like parenting. Great. Oh my God, I've dropped the kids off beds before, and you know, they're still alive.
Okay, they
and,
bounce.
They do bounce.
They're very rubbery children.
Yeah. I love failure. But I think you need to. I think it builds resilience, and I actually, on that topic, one thing I do struggle with, or one thing that I'm working on, is what I've found, and all you young'uns here might be able to relate.
Thank you for including me in that. Thank you for including me in that, Maddi. I appreciate that.
Is I do struggle with finding people with resilience in the workplace. That's something that it comes from being able to make mistakes and build yourself up and build that resilience. And I'm very much hey, give it a crack and try, and I don't micromanage. And when I have worked with people that don't have that resilience, I struggle to work alongside those people, because I'm like, come on, man, just have a crack. Yeah. And I don't like giving all the answers away. Like just you know, get in there. Yeah. So I've found the younger generations really don't have as much resilience. And
snowflakes.
Snowflakes. Oh my God, they are. Yeah. I do struggle with it. I saw a TikTok, and I don't follow TikTok. And I don't know how to even get onto TikTok. That's my age there. But like, there was one that was shared on Instagram, and it was like, I worked 9 to 5 and I'm just so tired. And I was like, is this chick fucking kidding herself? Like, anyway, I struggle with that, because like, the amount of work it takes to build a business, I can't describe to you. Like, it takes everything where you push your limits to your body breaking point, you know, like literally. And so when I see that, I'm just like, go away, please. In its nicest way.
How do you sort of foster that then, like in your workplaces?
Absolutely. Yeah. Some people do have it. And
of course,
some to be honest, I let people make mistakes, and it's how I challenge them to do that, but also knowing that they won't get in trouble for that.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's a big part.
You're not going to get in trouble. Have a crack. You know, there's a difference between making a mistake and being deliberate and doing something nasty or whatever. You know, there's a very big difference in I made a mistake, but hey, I'm sorry, can you help me or whatever. That's different. Absolutely, but at least you tried. And I've had stuff make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, and I go, shit. Sorry, you know. I encourage people to do their own learning as well. Like, get out there, read some things. At 8 a.m. every day, I send a quote that I've found to all my guys. And, you know, so I do little things to try and build them up and build their leadership qualities up as well. But yeah, I honestly think it's giving people the environment where they feel safe to make mistakes. Yeah.
I've seen that a lot with friends that are obviously in workplaces where they're not encouraged to take those failures. And then if they do make a mistake, the boss or manager comes down so hard on them, and then it just like stifles them.
I think it's such an environment thing. So it's coming from like your parents or your first workplaces and things. Like if you start in like either hospitality or retail, or your parents like helicopter parents, and you come from that environment, I think it really can either like support or not support it. So I think the biggest thing, like you were saying, you're building that safe environment for people to fail in is really, really important. On that, what would you say like your leadership style is? What are you trying, like when you're bringing new people into the team, or like, I don't like to say manager, because you're not really, you're managing people, but like you want to kind of lead from you know, the front. What's your leadership style?
It's interesting. I don't like the word manager or boss. Even though I get called boss, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm not your boss. I'm like your co-worker, you know, and language is so important, so important. And I can't stress it enough. The way that you speak to people, the way that you speak about people, is so, so important, and the type of words you use. I would say I'm still learning how to be a leader. I'm still learning what is the best way to do that. Sometimes I could say I'm too soft. Believe it or not, I'm actually a bit too soft. And I've had to build my resilience as a leader. I don't like uncomfortable conversations, and that's something that I'm learning to have. I don't like performance management. I just feel like just do your job and learn it and get good at it. And why do I have to performance manage you? But I understand why we have to do it. So, yeah, my leadership style is to be more like a coworker and a colleague and learn from people as well. I think everybody can teach everybody something, and just because you sit in a certain position in a business doesn't mean that you know everything. I love hiring people that have come from different industries, like we work in the NDIS, but I've hired people from Qantas that have, when COVID hit, we got all this opportunity to hire people from way different industries. And I love that because you bring such different things to industries. And I love watching how my guys lead. I really disrespect bullies. Like, I will not allow somebody to yell at anybody. I've never yelled at anybody myself. And I never will. I just don't understand how that would ever bring out anybody, the best in anybody. But yeah, my leadership style is very much, I really like to create a culture that is safe and a culture that breeds innovation. I really love when someone comes to me and is like, I want to try this. I'm like, shit, yeah, let's go. But also understanding that there are so many different personalities, and like, not everybody's brain works like mine. And that's really hard as a leader. It's really hard as a leader to sit back and go, the 25 people I've hired are all different and they don't all think like me. Oh, okay. How do they not read my mind when I say something? Or how do they not take something? So it's been interesting I've now got 40 staff, and when I release a company announcement, all 40 of them take it a different way. And so I have to be really careful with how I pick and choose what I say and how I say that. And it's not about keeping company secrets. It's literally about being sensitive to how everybody is going to take certain information.
And even like communicating effectively. Everyone has such different communication styles. Which is massive.
A great example, we when I started our training, so when we bring on a new recruit, we developed a training program. And when we first started, I just bring them on and just be like, just here's some clients and we'll learn on the job. Because I'm very much learn on the job, right? That's how I learn. So we tried that, and then we were losing staff. They're like, no, it's too hard. I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody gave me any training. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. So we developed this 2-week intensive training course. Then I lost staff. I'm like, what is happening? They were scared. There was too much training. And I was like, oh, my God, I can't get this right. Like, literally. So I guess the best thing about it, being in leadership is be hungry to learn, really measure what is happening, like go, okay, why didn't that work? Really understand what you've done or what you want to do, and then pivot, change, be fluid to change, and try things. We're still developing our training session. After 4 years, I still can't get it right.
But even with that, it's kind of like even a screening thing. You're kind of getting rid of the weak people anyway. So it's like a bit of a win-win anyway.
I love that.
It's like,
I was like, oh, well, it couldn't last. See you later.
You want someone who's going to be, agile and able to work with, whatever you've got. So see you later.
The corporate Hunger Games. I love that.
And that's that resilience that comes through, right?
Just massive.
100%. Yeah.
So you're incredibly driven in your own right. Let's look at your beautiful, supportive husband, Lloyd.
Yes. Yeah.
What role is Lloyd playing, not just as a husband, but he's behind the scenes in all of these endeavors that you're doing? How important do you think the role of having a really trusted support network is to let you flourish, I suppose?
Yeah. We're a bit yin-yang. So I'm like the crazy one that doesn't stop talking, that doesn't stop coming up with ideas, and he's a typical Papua New Guinean that is chilled as, that just goes with the flow, and it actually works really well. So we've been together, 15 years, a long time, since we were 21, and we just work as a team well in terms of being able to support our kids to grow up in an environment that they get the best of seeing mum and dad work, but also getting to experience, Cairns nature, getting out and doing things. And we are we're always together. The 4 of us are always together. Even today we had to drop one of the kids at a friend's house and we're like, should we all go together in the car to do that? And I'm like, sure, I don't know why, but I think our dynamic works. We do not work together. In fact, the only time we ever fight is if we're in the gym together. because don't you dare tell me what to do in the gym, and I won't tell you what to do in the gym.
But he's really ripped, Maddi.
I don't care. I know better. Yeah. So I think that's the only thing that we ever, like, I'll never go running with him because he's a way better runner, and I don't ever want to.
In the reels, I'm chucking up pictures from his from his fireman calendar shoot right now, so people know what we're talking about.
He's just done his 10th year in the firefighter calendar.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they went down to the Gold Coast and did all those shoots. Yeah. So, and an interesting fact about him, hates the limelight as well. Absolutely hates it. So I don't know how he survived on a TV show.
Yeah, how did you stumble onto that opportunity?
Yeah.
You know what? It's about being in it to win it.
Yeah.
Like everyone goes, oh, you're so lucky. I was like, did you apply?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he just came home one day and went, oh, should we apply for this? I was like, yeah, sure. Didn't know what it was. I was like, yeah, sure. Of course, I had to fill in all the forms, not him. And I just filled them out. We didn't think anything of it. Like, just filled it out. And then he was about to go in for a knee reconstruction, and we were in the hospital, and we got the call that we got accepted.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
And all you could hear was the hospital audio, like
In the background.
yeah, like, you know, I don't know what they were saying. And they're like, you've made it onto house rules. And I was like, shit. And in my head, I'm going, he's just about to have a knee reconstruction. I was like, so when does filming start? They're like, next week or 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, he'll be right.
Yeah.
Go in for your knee reconstruction. We'll be right.
I thought you would have pulled him off the gurney.
Me too.
No. I pulled him off the gurney to get back into the show. So he limped for most of the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That
He
poor
had
boy.
to go.
Resilience.
What a unit.
Resilience.
Yeah. But I mean, I look back on that show, and there's a lot of people, like most people wouldn't understand what happens in a reality TV show and how much they push you to your brink, and which is why I find it really hard to watch these shows now, because I know what happens behind the scenes. And I always used to think I had regrets of not doing things on the show. But they're not regrets, because I wasn't as strong as I am now. Yeah. And that came with having kids, having experience, going through the show. Yeah. You know, so back then I was intimidating and intimidated. Yeah. I wasn't intimidating. And I was bullied by producers. I was told to do things I didn't want to do, and I did them. And now, because people always go, would you do it again? I was like, fucking oath I would. Because come at me. Now, put me on a show now.
The 10-year reunion.
Yeah. And now, absolutely I would. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was an interesting ride and stuff that you don't think that would happen. Yeah. Actually, you know, they deprive you of sleep. They deprive you of food. Yeah. I've never seen Lloyd yell in his life, apart from when they wouldn't allow him to eat. And we were on a bus with all the other contestants driving. This was all off camera. Yeah. And we were driving and we were going past a Macca's, and he's like, can you stop the bus? It was like 10 o'clock at night. I'm so hungry, I want to eat. And we had a minder. Yeah. So this minder was there to keep us from talking to each other. So we weren't allowed to talk to each other off camera. And so we're all sitting on the bus. We can only talk to our partner, obviously, but we weren't allowed to talk to anybody else. And Lloyd got up and went, can you stop the bus? I'm hungry. Yeah. And she went, no, sit down. And he lost his shit. And everyone was like, oh my God, he can speak. I was like, yeah, don't keep food on him.
He can sing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Did you get
stuff they used to do. She did. So the minder was grappling with, well, if some want Macca's and some don't, how do I mind them all? It was like having 10 children. Yeah. So she left some of us on the bus, but then she gave us this like massive talk, like don't dare speak. When we went to airports, they would put us in different corners of the airport, like we were children. No way. And we weren't. And one of the couples was in their 60s, and they were like, "This is so embarrassing. I'm being yelled at by a minder."
I put like some 20, 30-year-old.
Yeah. And,
so all these psychological mind games these producers are playing, it's clearly to generate like the emotion for when you're ready to camera, like
get a reaction.
Sparks are going to fly and it'll make good television, right?
Yeah,
they're not just being weird.
And I get it now. Like I get it. Absolutely. You know, there was one time we were painting and it was like 24 hours of painting and I was at my absolute peak. And the producers got a box of cockroaches from the local pet store. No. And they asked one of the other contestants to put it down my back while I wasn't looking. They were crickets, actually. And I remember him, I was on a ladder painting a garage in the dark in Melbourne, freezing cold. And he came up to me and I saw him coming up to me and even he didn't want to do it. Like the other contestant was like, I don't want to do this. And I've looked around at him and I saw him holding it and I said, I dare you to fucking do that.
Yeah.
And she goes, you're not allowed to swear, because they couldn't capture anything swearing. And I was like, I dare you. And he looked at me and went, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And he walked away and I was like, I'm done now. Take me home. I'm done. This is shit. Yeah.
That's crazy though. Like,
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Oh, here, go tip these.
Oh, it was
A little gaslight.
Yeah, what?
that word
And
wasn't
that-
around back then.
It has
But
like nothing to do with the show as well. Like, just tip these bugs on them. Like,
Yeah, it's just to rile you up. And yeah, once they got us to hold a goldfish, so there was a big fish bowl with 2 goldfish in it, filled to the top, round. So imagine trying to hold that.
Yeah.
One of us had to hold it the whole time and drive a manual Navara. Okay, just picture that.
Yeah.
Going over speed humps. And we had to hold that for the whole week while we renovated a house. And while the renovation was going, because it was an open fishbowl, all the sawdust was going on top of the fishbowl and we had to keep them alive. Anyway, they realised it was animal cruelty.
Yeah.
And then, and because the fish actually died, and we had to, they woke us up at 2 a.m. to do a fish funeral, and I was fucking ropeable. Anyway,
Bro,
so
where's Peter when you need it? Where's RSPCA? Like,
Yeah. What year was this?
What's the
2014?
background behind this?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's
is this
right.
like challenges or something that they're giving you
it
to
was
do?
a
Like,
challenge,
yeah.
but because they realised that it would be not good
Yeah.
television,
Yeah.
they ended up cutting the whole thing. And so that whole week, all you see is my upper half from
Yeah.
basically my chest up, because they couldn't show any.
They had a
So
fish.
Lloyd and I pretty much didn't feature in that whole week because you couldn't see, you weren't allowed to see the fishbowl.
Wow.
And I was just like, what the? Yeah. There was a lot that
That's
went
crazy.
on. Like,
So,
a lot.
so just for out of my own curiosity, so they record the show, and then what? It goes to air like months later.
I was already back at work. So at that point, I was working at the Cowboys.
Okay.
And I was already back at work, back at my desk when it started airing. So it was the weirdest feeling because nobody knew where I was for the last 6 months. And I went back to work, and then it started airing
So you
because you're
couldn't
not
tell
allowed.
anyone.
Oh,
You're
you
a
can't tell
gag order.
anyone.
You can't tell anybody. And I went back to work, and I remember Jonathan Thurston came and sat on my desk as it was airing because he hated one of the contestants. He's like, tell me what happens with Brooke. I was like, I can't tell you what happens with Brooke. You just have to watch it. And he's like, oh, she's a bitch. And I'm like, I know. So it was really funny just to, but as obviously it started to roll and we started to get that popularity, Lloyd and I were like, we can't go to the shops. Like we couldn't go to the local,
Really?
like we lived in Townsville
Yeah.
at that point,
Yeah.
and we couldn't go to the local Woolworths. Like we didn't know what to do. We had people climbing our fence to look at our renovation. Like it was, because our house got renovated during it,
okay,
and
yeah.
our house became like an open home. And I'm like, I
Mm.
don't know what to do. Like, and
Like,
people were
just
knocking on our door.
expecting that they could come.
Yeah,
look at
we
it,
would just shut the curtains and just like sit in our house like prisoners. Yeah,
Wow.
it was crazy. Yeah.
Does the show pay for your renos?
Yeah, they pay for your
Cool.
reno, and they also pay you an income to be on it because
Okay.
you have to take a good between 3 and 6 months off.
Yeah.
So, and the idea of the show is you had to have a mortgage to enter.
Yep.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So I take it you watched it week to week when it was airing?
I didn't. No,
Yeah.
I found it
Wow.
hard to watch it.
Okay.
Of course.
I really found it hard to, and we were also, so when it was airing, we were then doing the publicity tours, and we
Yeah.
were on every radio show you could think of, and all these rumors started surfacing that, so there was a great rumor, and I really wish it was true, that I was a property mogul. And I was like splashed all over New Idea. You know, Maddi Wright lies, and she's a property mogul, and she owns all these houses, and they put pictures of all these houses.
Random houses.
Yeah, and they even put like how much my mortgage was on each of them. And then I went and did the Kyle and Jackie O show, and they were like, "So, Maddie, is it true? Are you a property mogul?" I was like, "Mate, I wish.
Yeah.
I wish." And they're like, "So where'd they get the photos from?" I was like, "I don't know. Realestate.com? Like, I don't know." But, and then there was rumors that Lloyd and I split up, and so it literally whatever a journalist wanted to write,
They just
They can just
They
get away
could
with it. Yeah.
absolutely. A source of a friend of a source quoted something, and that was
Yeah.
it. And I was like, I've never been so open to media and how much that they can get away with. Like,
fabricated,
I
yeah.
really was shocked that, wow, they're just writing anything.
Yeah.
Like,
Because that doesn't just happen to everyone. Like
No.
all these on like a national scale. Just
Yeah,
rumors
yeah.
being made up about you.
yeah. And I think that's where you just had to be really resilient because, like, there was stuff that was said about my kids, and this is years after because I had my first boy about a year after the show aired, and we were still quite popular, and the stuff that came out that people would say about my children, about my life, and at first it did hurt, and then after a while I was like, shut up, wanker. Like, I literally didn't care. I honestly, they could have said anything. I didn't care. They didn't know me. So why would I care about their opinion?
Yeah.
You know? So, but I know that obviously does affect a lot of people. And I don't think there's any easier way than just stop looking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why people just stop looking. Stop looking. Stop responding to them. Yeah. Stop. You're not going to change their mind. Stop. Like, you know, it's actually that simple.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
I don't know. Yeah.
I was going to say, just on another note, you mentioned you've obviously gone through a number of different jobs and careers.
Yes.
And some of them you mentioned like you didn't really have a passion for.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice to someone like trying to find that passion still?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing to learn.
Yeah.
And it almost is a learned skill. I think try something and just try it quickly. Like just, I don't know how I found my passion, but it clicked really. I thought radio was my passion. I really did. And I've been called back into radio that many times and I keep going. Actually, the last time I got called, he called me and went, we've got a breakfast radio announcer job. You know, we really want you to take it. And I said, I've got a business. Yeah. And he went, I thought that was just a social media, you know, fluffy thing. Yeah. And I was like, no, I employ 40 people. It's like a real thing. I pay 40 mortgages. Like
I make more than this radio station. I don't understand what you're asking me for.
I did say that too. And it just, I think it dawned on me that what I thought was my passion in it, and I still am passionate about it, and I'm still, but it didn't trump what I do now. Like, and I only got there by feeling it. Like I went, oh, this is really where I should be. Yeah. This is what's lighting my fire. When you know it's a passion, it's when I love the word grit, right? So grit's about passion and perseverance. And if you are willing to be gritty about something that you love for a long time, then that's what you should be doing. Yeah. When you get like all excited about an idea and then after a couple of weeks you're like, oh shit, I remember that idea. Where was that? What notebook is that in? Yeah. Then that's probably not what you should be doing. Yeah. Yeah. Also mistaking hobbies for passion. So a big thing, I actually got my first ABN when I was 16 years old. I started as, again, this will be an age thing. I started as a Les Mills body instructor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Go back a little bit. I have no idea.
Okay,
I did body balance class this morning. I know what Les Mills is, Maddie. I am an older gent now.
I love that. Don't admit that to your friends, but now it's on a podcast.
Oh, everyone knows that body balance. It's fine.
It's like aerobics. It is aerobics in a group style setting. But Les Mills was a program that was, and it's still around
the
today.
OG,
but back then it was like the CrossFit. Yeah. And I used to grow up watching okay, far out. This is my age. Oz aerobics. So back in the day, there was ladies in bikinis.
On Channel 10. Oh, man. You two can just take a side step and Maddie and I are just going to talk about the good old days.
That's thriving right now.
Cam, you would have loved this TV show and you should YouTube it after. You would have absolutely loved it.
And I know he's going to YouTube it after this. It was called Oz Aerobics. And it was like, I grew up going, that's what I want to be. Yeah. There was two things I wanted to be. I wanted to be that and I wanted to write a children's book. Yeah. They were the two things I wanted to do. And anyway, so I started my fitness, what I called a fitness career, quite young. At year 11, I got Les Mills qualified. I did my cert, whatever, in PT. Yeah. And I started shadowing at the local gym in year 11. And then I became a trainer in year 12 and you know what? Thought I loved it. But I hate being in the limelight. And that's what it was, standing on a stage doing aerobics. And you had to know your lefts and rights because you're facing the crowd. And so I always had to write left and right on my hands because I didn't know which one I was teaching. And I got really nervous. And I did that for a few years, but I just didn't like it. I used to dread getting up and going and doing it because I was like, I actually like just being in the audience doing it. And so you've got to really understand that what you might like to do in leisure, like drink wine, may not become a career pathway, may not become what you're genuinely passionate about. And like I said it before, I'm not passionate about the NDIS. What I found I was passionate about was helping people that are less advantaged than I am. That are more vulnerable than I am. If I walk past somebody in the street and like there's a guy that sits at Rusty's and I always go and buy him a hot dog and he loves it. But like I can't walk past somebody that's less advantaged than I am and not do something, you know. And so that was where I found, although I loved radio, I was always trying to do something outside of radio that would fulfill that purpose. And your passion should be your purpose.
That
makes a lot of sense. That's
so
incredible.
Very good.
Because like say, just when you talk about that, like fitness has always been such a massive passion, and you always have it in the back of your head. I'm like, I wonder if I ever did that cert or that personal trainer. But it's kind of once you take that hobby and make it into a business, it can become a little bit like monotonous and then like a chore. So it takes the passion out of it.
You've got to fail quick though, right? Like give it a crack because you may never know. If you've got that feeling, you should always pursue it. But you've got to fail quick. Don't do it for 7 years and be like, oh, that was a waste of time. You'll know straight away if this is where you should be. And then if it's where you should be, you'll just keep growing on it.
And that's the tough thing is like some people might have an interest in it and then it's sitting at like a 7 out of 10 passion. But it's not the 10 out of 10 passion that's going to fully fulfill them.
It won't give you the grit that you need.
They don't have that grit, so they're staying in it for that long.
And that's okay. I think the worst thing in the world is to be in a job you don't genuinely like and have a purpose to be in. I think if you are waking up every day and going to a job that you just don't want to be in, just stop it. There are so many jobs out there and have a crack at something else. You know, like stop doing it. I've got so many friends that are like, oh, I hate my boss and I hate my job. And I'm like, change it.
Sucks for you.
And it's actually that simple. It's actually that simple. There's so many jobs out there. Change it. You know?
But I suppose you have to be at least practice some introspection and self-awareness with yourself, and that takes time to be able to develop that. Like music has always been my passion, and I was playing gigs for years, and it got to a point where I was still an accountant, and then I would go to a gig straight after work on a Friday night and gig on a Saturday night. And I did that back to back for ages. And then I completely fell out of love with music. And I realized that being a muso, that's not, even though music is my passion, it wasn't the passion that was going to see me through like a career or anything like that, because after a short period of time of doing it, my love for it just dissipated. Whereas I've been very fortunate to be in the role that I am now, which you know me in, and where we're similar is that I'm not passionate about numbers and money. I'm passionate about helping people. And that's what my job is as an advisor, is purely just to help people. But it takes a bit of self-awareness to get to that stage to realise that.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't just come immediately.
One of I call, you know, in my company where you've got company values, I actually call them immutable laws because you can't mute them. And you should probably also, and I actually say this in recruitment, maybe why I lose a few people, but where if you don't meet our immutable laws on a personal and professional level, you shouldn't be here. And they're so simple. It's about having purpose. Purpose is one of the biggest ones, but well-being is another one. And so I guess like if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of other people. Then don't take a job with us. You know, and so, you know, those things, but purpose is one of those ones, and it is like if you are just in it for a buck, I'm not where you should be, because our job is all about helping people.
You got to live the lifestyle.
Yeah.
You briefly mentioned there, it was so quick that one of your dreams was to write a children's book.
Yes.
Tell us about this new project that's come about that I've seen on your socials, Maddie. What's going on?
You know what though? Okay. So when I was younger, I don't know where this comes from for me, so I don't know if I can give you any words of wisdom around how I developed this grit that I have. But when I was younger, I wrote a children's show, actually, a TV show. I was living in Brisbane at the time, and I went and drove up to Channel 10 studios, and I knocked on their door, and I was like, I want to see the top dog.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they were
This
called.
is brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had my script. I didn't know how to write TV scripts. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that that's what I thought I wanted to do. Yeah. And they actually gave me a meeting. I couldn't believe it. I know. Anyway, and I can't remember what it was called, and I wish I had all of this stuff still. They're the only regrets I have is I wish I kept some things. Yeah. And he said, listen, it's great, but, you know, we're not looking for that right now. You know, they give you that speech. And I was like, oh, damn it. Okay, well, so what can I do to do it better? Yeah. So then I just went back and I wrote another one and came back and I just was a pest.
And today it's play school.
And today it's Bluey. And you've lost billions of dollars.
That's right. That's right.
And that show was Bluey.
That's right. Absolutely. They ended up giving me an internship on Totally Wild though. And so I was a free worker for a while. Anyway, so it was sort of like a thing, again, where I thought I wanted to be a journalist. So I went to uni, studied journalism, thought that was my passion, ended up quitting that side of things when I got told to go and do so I was one of those people that would work every Christmas. I didn't do the schoolies thing. I didn't go overseas. I worked every Christmas, every New Year's. I was like, yeah, put my hand up. I'll do it. And ended up getting on a really bad story, a car crash, and they said, you've got to go interview the mum who just lost a child. And I was like, you can stuff that right up your ass. Yeah. So I quit that. Anyway, so the writing thing, I thought I wanted to be a writer. Yeah. And recently what I said to my kids, so I've got two boys, 7 and 8 years old. And my husband and I are always trying to, you know, show them new things, try new things. So one of them is doing drums at the moment, and that's our 7-year-old. He's doing drums, and my eldest is doing gymnastics, and he's like a weapon. He's already got an 8-pack and whatever. But they don't really love it. Like I kind of get to Wednesday, I'm like, all right, Carter, we're going to gymnastics, and he's like, do I have to? I'm like, yeah, mate, you do. I pay a lot of money for this. Yeah. Anyway, so what I've noticed is parents tend to push kids to do things they think they want to do. But what I started to do is really watch the kids and what they were doing in their free time without anybody pushing them, without teachers saying anything, without us saying. And what they were doing is they were really into their books and reading and they were drawing. Anytime they could, they would draw characters. And I was like, hey, boys, do you want to write a comic book? Yeah. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, why do you have that much enthusiasm for like golf or something that might make us money? Anyway, so it kind of then led us down this journey of making a comic book together. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm helping them, but try. So it's kind of like my 7 and 8-year-old boys are the CEO of this company. Yeah. And it's so frustrating. I've never worked with a boss that is just painful.
There'd be a few out there.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I'm trying to keep them on track. Yeah. It's just like, guys, we need to do another chapter. And they're like, okay, Mum, I just need to finish off whatever they're doing. And I'm like...
I've got the publishers on my back. The warehouse, the stock of the books already.
It's your first juice break. Get back to it.
I know. It feels like that. So the idea kind of popped up and I said to them, if you want to do this, do you want to sell it? And they're like, can we make $1 million? I was like, well, Mummy will make 90%, but you'll make you only need a game station, right? Oh, they're suckers. Yeah, they've already signed the contract. Little do they know.
Yeah, they're readers, but they're not great reading contracts.
Trust fund,
yeah, they don't know contract law yet. Yeah,
I know. I actually had that chat with them about the cost of a product and then the profit that you make on top once you've paid the cost.
No, so you're already whittling them down. Teach them young.
So painful.
Well done.
They're like, so I was like, if it costs $30,000 to print all of these, then you need to sell it for more money than that. And then they're like, and so we get more money than $30,000.
Only if you sell it.
No.
Brilliant.
Anyway, that's been painful.
Do I need to have a chat with them next when you're next in?
I'm
Get
going
them in
to send it to you. So yeah, it's been a journey. We literally started again. We're dealing with a 7 or 8 year old where their attention span's very short. And I said, do you want to sell it? They said, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. I said, well, it's going to be hard work. You know, I'm not going to lie about it. And they went, no, let's do it. And I thought I'd test the waters to see if they were quite serious about it, because I'm not putting my time into this without them putting their time into this. Again, teaching them business, right? And I reach out to an illustrator online, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll just do you a mock-up of some characters." So we got the kids to draw their characters, and then the illustrator then put them into real-life characters. And the kids were stoked. Like they were like, "Oh, this is sick, Mom!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, bro." Yeah. So anyway, we've decided, and it kind of gave me this light bulb moment, right? So if my passion is helping people, and lately that's turned into more so developing talent.
Yeah.
But in the business world, in my world where I'm dealing with, well, how old are you guys? 25 to, I'm not dealing with 25-year-olds, I'm dealing with 30 to 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
And if that's what I'm really passionate about, why am I not teaching my kids these skills now? You know, all these skills I learned, honestly, accidentally. Yeah. I've only just started. Like I know you guys are on this journey, which is so cool, about reading books and podcasts, and I only just started that myself. Like I didn't do that 10 years ago. I'm doing that now, and it's fantastic. It's opened up my world to new things. But what if you could learn that at 7 years old?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. What if you could think, why is marketing important?
Yeah.
Why? But even just, you know, the question about finding your passion. I think that is probably the most important question that you could teach somebody, some skills around how to do that. And so I was like, why wouldn't I invest in my own kids? You know? And so it's sort of become a bit of it's a passion project. When I do things, I do them on full scale. Like we've already got our first chapters done. The illustrator's done most of the stuff to date. And, you know, I've already got a website up. Like this is all within 2 weeks. If I do something, I'm going to do it real hard. And we may lose money and we may get laughed at online. Don't give a shit. Like, take a chance.
Like the time you're spending with your kids to do this is like invaluable.
It's
like it's a win regardless.
Yeah, they're going to hate comic books at the end of this. 100%.
You're going to ruin their hobbies and passions.
I'm going to obliterate them.
Monetize it and ruin it. Look, I can do your job easy.
You're confused about what I do, mate. That's all right.
Never really understood.
No, it's all right. No, but I think probably the best thing that is the long-term impact this is going to have on your kids. So that at some point in time, they might just have a memory, it's entrenched in their mindset, and they'll look back on this with fond memories that mum and dad fostered this thing out of us that we didn't think was anything. And then that might completely change the trajectory of their life, that they now have this entrepreneurial spirit that you fostered in them at 7 years old. And now they're their own people and they're on the path that they are because you invested in them at such a young age. Incredible stuff, Maddi.
Yeah, I think there's these little things, like we started reading to the kids when they were like literally 6 months old. We'd sit them on the bed and we'd read. Every single night we still read. And I never really thought that was a thing. Like that's a habit. It's like, go to bed, we read, you know, and so now we're reading Harry Potter's and what I've noticed is though, my youngest at 7 is already 12 months ahead in school in English.
Oh, wow.
And I do not endorse homework. I'm not that kind of parent. Like I just, when they come home, please don't do homework. Like I actually
spend the time.
I'm that parent's like, why do we have homework?
I
don't want to be doing that. So just from doing those habits and setting those habits, I've realised we're actually doing good things for them. And even, you know, they'll see me and they see how much I work, and I know, and I do balance it, but they do still get the, you know, mummy's on a call, please, guys. And I do work from home a lot. But I know that that's teaching them something as well, you know, that they're going, okay. You know, they don't get to see daddy at work because he's a firefighter and has a way cooler job than me. But so it's all little habits and lessons that you don't know. Sometimes you're teaching them, but absolutely they walk away going, oh, I might use that one day. And if they don't, who cares?
They're going to get into the workforce, like, I only have to work 38 hours per week. You should see what mum does.
This
is light work. This is easy.
Exactly.
So it sounds like, so I suppose, you know, coming full circle, it sounds like maybe like 10, 15 years ago, success to you was maybe, you know, the good career and the limelight and everything like that, and the things that on paper to everybody else looked successful. What is success viewed to you now, and has it changed probably to how you would have defined success 10 years ago? Because it now sounds like your whole psyche is foster my children and make them be the best that they can be?
Yeah. Time is your biggest thing, right? So, and it's true. I had a moment where, I grew up going, yeah, you've got to be rich and famous. You know, that's what we all need to be, have that career. And I had a moment, and it was in radio, and I got flown to Melbourne, and I got flown to see all their big studios, and there was a job offer there. And I thought it was everything I wanted. Yeah. You know, I'd worked so hard for this. I got a degree in this. This is what I've been working my whole life for. And we were currently living in Cairns at the time. And so we were having to make that decision to move to Melbourne. And this studio is right in the centre of a really, really busy part of Melbourne. And anyway, so I was having this interview, and it all went well. And I was, you know, watching some of these people that I admire in radio do their shows. And I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And got offered the job, and I walked away, and I went home, and I was like, do I really want this? Like, what do I want? Like, I had to sit back and stop saying yes to everything and go, what do I actually want? What makes me happy? Yeah. And I think when you live in metro towns, you sort of think that that's the be all end all. Like, I know I've got friends that are like, oh, you live in Cairns. It's just like how can you even have a career in Cairns, you know?
Little do they know.
Little do they know. Exactly. And so I think now, you know, I look at it and I go, my best days are where I can spend time with the family and nurture that time and do what I want to do. Yeah. You know, like I'm setting up my business so that I can step back, and I had this moment in my business. So it's 4 years old. We've got 40 staff, and I became a day-to-day HR manager, really. Like I set up the business. So when I set it up, it was all entrepreneurial, and it was exciting, and I was doing stuff that I loved. And then I got to that point, that pinch point in a business where you're in the grind. Yeah. You're trying to figure out, you're doing payrolls, you're dealing with HR issues, and I was like, I don't want to do this. No. I hate this.
Nothing worse.
Exactly. I could, and that was my exact words. I could think of nothing worse than this. Love my staff, but the stuff I was dealing with was not even dealing with that stuff. No, like I wasn't even talking to them about case stuff where that was exciting to me, like getting in to help people, help our clients. We weren't even doing much of that anymore because I was so busy doing the day-to-day operations of a business. And it dawned on me, I was like, I'm not a good manager. I don't want to manage people. Yeah. I don't want to be someone's boss. Yeah. I really don't enjoy it. I don't want to hire and fire. I don't like this. And that was a really important moment for me. I was like, okay, then what should I be doing then? Yeah. What am I going to do? Yeah. And only recently I hired a COO. Yeah. Who happens to be my mum. Long
Keep
story.
it in the family.
Yeah. Who can you trust more? Yeah. But what that's done is it's allowed me to step back, and I mean within just the last few weeks, step back and really reassess, like, what am I good at? What's my zone of genius? How did I get so far? Yeah. And it's not by doing payroll. No. And it's not by, it's not. So then, the last few weeks I really had that time because I have someone running the day-to-day stuff to say, well, I love being with my kids, being able to develop projects that I want to develop. Like we're now opening in Victoria and down south, and I've been able to do that. And I get really excited by wins, right? Yeah. Like I get into a new market and I set it all up, and that's what I'm good at. Yeah. I'm not good at then hiring people and firing people and
keeping it running. Yeah.
No, but I want to get in there, meet with big heads and talk shit and make it work, right? That's what I do. And so now I'm like having to go, this is what I like doing. I think time though, you really want to get to a point where you've made enough money to support your family and do what you want to do, whether that be travel, whether that be do nothing. I could never do nothing. Trust me. I've tried it. It's really hard work. But for me, it's work on projects that excite me. Yeah. But I can't do that if I don't have that nest egg built that I can step back and do that. Because you can't just go and do that, right? You just can't. You actually need to have money to, as Ben always tells me.
As Ben would say,
I know.
This is sounding so familiar. It's almost like someone like me said it. It's weird. It's so weird.
That's right. I don't know. Pay taxes.
Get out. No, that's fantastic. Man, I've loved this chat.
Yeah, honestly.
Absolutely loved it, Maddie.
I just love throughout the duration of the call, it's like oh, and then I did this, and then one time I did this,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
one time I'm like, where does it end?
Yeah, like you just
Like,
randomly brought up, you're like, oh, and I worked at the Cowboys. It's
Yeah,
like,
and
just
then
so
I
random.
did that,
There's
like,
probably so much
funny.
we didn't cover, but
Yeah.
We'll have to
thank
get you back
so
in
much.
though,
Yeah.
Maddie. That's
Well,
why.
Yeah.
I think definitely bring you another episode on finding your passion, because that's obviously something you're quite passionate about.
Yeah.
So I think we'll run it back for another one. I think that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'll sell you a comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anywhere people can follow it or anything you want to shout
Are you-
out?
Just
anything
on
you wanna
my just on my Mrs. Maddi Wright Facebook page, I'm going to put up a bit of a journey about how to teach kids business.
Yeah, cool.
And I this weekend will be working on the marketing strategy for that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So have no business plan. It's probably one of the things about me. There's zero planning, where I know a lot of people are like that and they can plan out 5-year stuff. I can't. There's no planning. If someone said, what are you going to be in 5 years? I
See where the wind blows me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's the question I
fantastic.
would have ended on.
Yeah.
What's the future? What's the future for Miss Maddie Wright?
Zero.
And that's it.
I
That's
can give you
the
the next
answer.
48 hours, and after that, we're done.
It changes so much so quickly. So
Fabulous.
No, thank you so much. Eh?
Maddie, thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Thanks
coming
for
on the show.
having me.
We appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cheerio.
guys.
Have a good
Adios.
day.
Bye.
Bye.